This is Charles Harris. This is another of my World War II tapes when I was in the Army Air Corps. I've been thinking about when I was going to mechanic school up Chanute Field, Rantoul, Illinois. And I wanted to get some of those memories down on tape. And I'm going to have to sort of build up to it like always. I was 22 years old when I joined the Army. Done after being drafted. And I'd been out on my own for about 5 years, more or less. In and out of Dad's and Mother's place, trying to make it. But boy, it was a hard go. We had depression on. And I like starved to death. And it was rough. And I never would let anybody help me. I guess one of my drawbacks, some reason or another. People wanted to all my life, but I just, I don't know, just sort of shied away from any close contact with anyone. Might have been shirking responsibility, I don't know. But, boy, I tell you, I like starved to death. And when I went in that Army, it was it was just like taking your girdle off, or a tight-fitting pair of shoes. And there it was, boy. You didn't have to do nothing except what they told you to do. And that wasn't real hard and complicated. They fed you and clothed you and took care of everything. Well, I really appreciate that for a little while, but you know how young people are. It doesn't take you very long to adjust to the situation. And I lived it up there at Camp Robinson, Arkansas, and most everybody else around there is just about like me. And I always had the feeling that I didn't belong in there. I really wasn't a soldier. But I was in there with the rest of them, and I just sort of always had the feeling that I was just a little bit above it. Everything seemed so simple. And well, anyhow, rocked on along around Camp Robinson. Boy, you had all kind of guys in there. You couldn't lay nothing down, somebody steal it. And went on over at that area Corps Reception Center at Jefferson Barracks, Missouri, and it wasn't much better over there. I run into 3 or 4 fellas from around Eldorado, and it was getting just a little bit better along, but I still thought I was sort of a foreigner in a foreign place, and I guess I was, but I just about like everybody else. Finally went on up there to that airplane mechanic school in south of Chicago there. Oh, I don't know, maybe it was north enough. And they put me in a 4th school squadron, Black B, Building 156, Chanute Field, Rantoul, Illinois. I must have went in there about September, October, 1941. Now I got a mother sent me a picture of her in a folder and everything, you know, package. And I was just marveling about it. Her address then was Ms. W. Harris, 1224 Fairfield, Shreveport, Louisiana. It's probably a parking lot now, or a convenience store. But she sent me this photograph, and it was insured, and posted on it was only 8 cents. And it was stamped in Shreveport on November the 13th. And it was stamped at Rantoul November the 15th. You got 2 days. Man, it'd take 2 weeks now, with all this modern transportation we got, for anything to get that far. Now, when I got to Chanute Field, things sort of was forming more, and things sort of coming together. And you know, you look back on your years in the service and your war buddies. Well, there was something about a war buddy that you didn't find anywhere else. I guess your close contact. And it's right at the most important time of your life, up to that time you thought. Everybody young and healthy and eager, nonchalant more or less, you know. And you started forming bonds, closeness that that sort of made an army unit, sort of welded you together. And at certain times, you know, later on, you know, when you had a little tingle of fear about something, and you can look over and see your buddies are all just fixing to do the same thing that you're fixing to do. And they don't seem to be too worried about it, or, you know, you might catch them glancing over at you every once in a while. And it was just something there that everybody shared. Well, as you went along, you know, this bond and friendships and everything grew. And everybody's personality started coming out, you know, and you had all different kinds of fellows, you know, intellectuals, clowns, and but it seemed like that you had this common cause, you know, and everybody tried to fall back on their basic principles, their raising and character, and most everybody was honest. If they wouldn't, basically they was trying to be, sort of wanting to be. Well, but this time I got the feeling that I was in the Army, a soldier. Always before I'd had this feeling that there's been some kind of mistake made, because I really wanted to be in the Army Air Corps. And I figured, well, most any day there'd be a bulletin on the board there, you know, saying that they'd made a mistake about my physical condition or mental or something like that, you know, and that they was going to kick me out. Or it took a long time to realize that I was in there. Well, I was in there. And just look around. Well, I was I was in a lot better shape than some of them other guys, mentally, more or less, or, you know, on that side of it. Now, these supervisors in the Army, especially around that airplane mechanic school, you know, they was old heads. They'd been trained. And in school and in the formations, you know, and they said something. Well, they realized, you know, that we was all different bunch of guys, you know, and rather than waste time, well, they put everything, you know, in a real plain, simple language, you know, that everybody could understand, and I did. They say something, well, I understood it. But you'd be surprised, fellas, that well, more or less wasn't concentrating or listening, and wanted to have them repeat it. Well, you liable to see them guys on KP a little bit more than you got it. I wouldn't say that anybody picked on anybody, but I found out that there wasn't nothing hard and complicated about it. Boy, if I just pay attention, and I decided I'd do that. Now this, our barracks, they, you know, they were spread out everywhere. They had some brick buildings, and they had some buildings that I was in had shiplap siding, good wooden buildings, had a furnace down in the bottom, central heat, burned coal or coke, or whatever they had. And there was 2-story. Flight A upstairs, flight B downstairs. Now I've got a group picture. It was made there in Chanute Field. It was our bottom barracks down there where I lived. Now I counted 55 guys in that picture, and a lot of faces I didn't see there. I imagine that there's around 70 guys on each floor there. Now there was most of the paved streets are blacked up. You didn't see no mud anywhere. There wasn't a street or sidewalk. There's grass well taken care of. And the mess hall, boy, now there's something else. They had real good chow, a great big central mess hall. They stayed open 24 hours a day because that school was open 24 hours a day. Now they had 3 shifts over in that school, I guess. I went to school at 6 o'clock in the morning, and I got out at 2. Now I think that they woke us up, I believe, about 4:30, or maybe 4:45. And you had, I believe it was 15 minutes to clean up around your bunk there, mop, sweep, straighten up your bed, and shave, take a bath if you wanted to, and then fall out there and it comes straight in formation for roll call. Now, that seemed a lot to have to do in 15 minutes, but you learn that you do a lot of that before you went to bed at night, and it wasn't a bad deal. Then you march over to the mess hall, and you'd eat, and then you march on over to the school building from the mess hall. Now, the school buildings, they were great, big, spread out things, brick buildings, some hangars incorporated in them, and it was just like sort of going to high school. They had classrooms, we had desks, just like in school, with an instructor, blackboard and everything. And some of the classes, like the propellers, they had different kind of props and things up there in front. You can step out there and get all that. And like in engines, well, you'd go to another class for get the visual effects of it. They had the engine there that was made out of glass. You could see everything working in there. And you could just look right on the inside of an engine, and you could see it. Now, they had about 10 or 12 phases, and each one of them went 2 weeks. You got 10 days. You didn't go to school on Friday, on Saturday or Sunday. And you had to make a passing grade. They'd grade you on your test and your proficiency. And if you missed 3 days for any reason out of that class over 3 days, you had to take it course over. Made no difference what. Now they had 16 classes. It's all teaching the same thing. Now you start out on the top, class number 1. Now that was the geniuses, the intellectuals, guys like that, that it might be some pilots or a pilot training guys in there, taking a course in engine or something like that, and a refresher course. They were top-notch guys, and they come right on down for class 16. And boy, class 16 was something else. That was guys that had decided that they were didn't want to go to school, and they were going to flunk out, and they were just waiting for the Army to ship them out, you know, to their, they'd already been signed to squadrons around the country. And some different reason or another, they decided they didn't want to go to school. Well, now, the Army, they was pretty hip on things. A lot of these guys really didn't fit in, and they'd ship them on out, you know, let them go to another school or something like that. But there were some of them that they felt that if they just hold around after a little while, that they'd change their mind. Some guys that the Army thought would make good airplane mechanics if they just had someone to push them a little bit, you know, not boot them in the butt exactly, but just push them. They had that class 16 and screw up class. I don't know how long they'd hold a guy in there, but it was something else. I'll tell you about it after a while. Now they put me in class number 8. I was right in the middle, just an average guy. I got along pretty good. Now our first phase in that mechanic school was learning how to identify and use the tools, the wrenches and things like that, you know, and how to identify them and what a certain tool was for. And I found out that there were just actually there were just 2 wrenches. You had a socket and a box end. There was only really 2 wrenches you had. Any other thing like an open end or something like that was just to hold a nut on the other side where it might be in a tight place or something like that. And you know, all your life you've seen the wire pliers, these old slip joint wire pliers. They didn't have none in Army Air Corps there. They didn't have no pliers. They had everything else. They had a little long nose, a little place to cut wire on them, and you had your side cutters, and you had your slip joints, what we call battery wrenches, and but didn't have no pliers. Well, I enjoyed going to school. I was learning something every day. It was interesting to learn all that stuff, you know, and to see a lot of things, you know, that down through the years I'd looked at them like this, and they turned out to be like that, and the real practical reason for it. I learned all about that. Now, engines was one of my favorite phases in there. Troubleshooting them engines. They'd start an engine up there, you know, and that instructor, you know, he'd do a little something to it to make it run rough or start missing or maybe stop, maybe wouldn't start. And we're supposed to find out what the trouble was. Of course, that was along about, you know, a week over into the phase where they'd been teaching about engines all that time. And I got pretty good there. There was rules to go by, everything. And you pay attention to them and try to learn, well, you get down pretty good. And I got real good on troubleshooting engines. I wasn't much on repairing them. You know, we didn't have to do anything like tear motors down and replace them, anything like that, or time or engine. But we could tell when it was out of time, you know, and what got it out and stuff like that. Now, the subject I liked best was hydraulics. Boy, that's something you could sink your teeth into there. You had 2 pipes, you know, and it had a pump. You pumping that hydraulic fluid into maybe a little clog wheel, you know, that turned a motor. It went on through there and came on back around and hit that pump again, and went back through and done that work. Well, that was simple to me. That was my kind of operation, and I guess I was lucky because later on when we was working on them C-47 airplanes, they was what we called a hydraulic airplane. Everything that could was worked off the hydraulic system rather than electric. Now, one course that I couldn't get, and I really didn't try too much, was electricity. And they didn't try to cram that down your throat, but they went through the whole bit. And it seemed to me like that they'd tell you something. Say, now this works like this, but we don't know why. And he went on over and said, now this works like this, but we don't know why yet. Well, everything I didn't know why. I wanted to know why. So I did all them ohms and ohms and watts and voltage and stuff like that. I didn't try to remember any of that too much because I didn't figure I was going to have to use it too much anyhow. And I sort of looked on the electrical system like a hydraulic system. I figured, well, now, this hot line goes in here. The motor is at the voltage station back uptown, you know. And that hot wire goes over that light and make the ground and come on back around and start all over again or go on, ground itself and go on away, you know. I sort of compared it to the hydraulic system in your water lines in your house. I worked out a pretty good system there. I could, of course, I couldn't repair nothing. I couldn't troubleshoot nothing like that. But I could hook up some wires, boy, if I wanted to tie a motor or light in something. I knew how to do that. Well, I learned a little bit about electricity, but not much. Well, going to school up there, boy, it was nice. And it was broke down in two parts. You had your school and you had your squadron. And you had to do right in both of them, and they were sort of independent of each other. If you done something wrong over at school, well, they didn't have any punishment over there except you'd take the course over. But they'd recommend your squadron to do something. I mean, they'd just report to the squadron, and they had their own discipline tactics, you know. Well, going over in the squadron now, and you had guys there from all over the country. And, you know, back in them days, everything was segregated. There wasn't any blacks, wasn't any women. And all them guys were just sort of like me, just sort of on my level. There wasn't any Mexicans or Indians or Hispanics. Of course, I don't think that word Hispanic had been invented then. They were just half-breeds. And, but they were just all regular guys. And they sort of banded together, especially what we call the Yankees. Of course, a guy from over around Minnesota or somewhere over there, Wisconsin, you know, he'd tell you he wasn't no Yankee. Them Yankees come from over around New York, Pennsylvania, over in there. But them guys, they would sort of band together, one or two of them, you know, and they'd get bunks together, argue. Them Yankees, they're always arguing about everything, making difference what one fellow said, the other than to contradict him, they'd argue about it. And just a fussing all the time. And it seemed like that the southern guys got along better than any of the rest of them, because we were more quieter, and we didn't say anything until we'd made up our mind about it, and we didn't talk much. And the reason was that one of them Yanks run up and asked you something, you know, and while you were trying to figure it out, he'd go on to something else, you know, and shoot off his mouth a little bit and then walk off, you know, before you figured out what he's talking about. And they thought you were sort of intellectuals. And actually, we were just sort of slow. But everybody liked the Southern boys. Didn't nobody pick on us or anything like that. And we got along better than any of them did. And I just like to talk about some of them guys in there. There was right up the aisle from me. There's a little blonde-headed fellow up there, a little bit bigger than me, named Wayne Folsom. He's over there in the northwest somewhere, way up there about Canadian line. And he was a crybaby. He had a couple of buddies around there. And he was having trouble with his girlfriend. Oh, she'd write him these letters. It was on and off proposition. And he just worried to death and mad and going to do this and going to do that, you know. Oh, you've heard out of him. Now, after the war, when I got back and was working here on the railroad, I noticed a picture of on Life magazine's cover one time about an airplane, C-47 airplane, that had crash landed over there in the Alps Mountains in Switzerland, or maybe Italy or France around there. But didn't nobody get hurt. But they were marooned up there until someone could come in and get them. You know, they didn't have any helicopters in service back in them days. And Wayne Folsom, the crew chief. Now there was John Crow. He was a great big, what I'd call a Swede, blonde-headed, short-haired fella. And he come from up there in the northwest somewhere. John sort of reminded me of old James Arness. Wasn't quite as big. But he was quiet. He didn't impose himself on anybody, but real sociable. Holding conversation with him. Well, John, now, I didn't see him after we left Texas school, or Wayne Folsom either. But later on in 1944, when we was over in India, flying over into Burma, well, we took our whole group over there, 5 or 6 squadrons. And John Crow was a flight engineer on in another squadron. I didn't run into him, but George Ellis and him was big buddies, and they got together over there. Well, on a flight over the jungle, one of them Jap Zeros got after this transport airplane. And airplane, went down low. You try to get right over the treetops. Maybe that fighter won't come down that low, but he did. And he got a little too close to that transport, and he flipped his propeller, caught in a stabilizer on that transport, and the Jap Zero crashed in the jungle. And the transport come on back, and old John, he was the crew chief on there. And they got credit for officially for down in a Jap fighter. And George Ellis, he was talking to John about it, and John said he's talking about someone being scared. Now, that was him. Now, there wasn't but 3 other guys besides me in that barracks that wound up together. George Ellis, from El Dorado, Emory F. Sleepy Harrell from El Dorado, and Otis W. Harden, called Jack, from out here on around Mount Holly someplace. Now, Jack, he went to airplane mechanic school with us, but get out there in California, he decided he'd be a cook. He liked that a lot better. So he served out his time in the kitchen. And the rest of these guys all scattered. And I didn't run into him except one guy later on. Now I'm going to tell you about Woodrow W. James from Cabot, Arkansas. Now, boy, I'm telling you, he was a wheel. He was a guy about 5'8" or 9". He wasn't tall, he wasn't short. He's slightly built. And straight black hair, Not a whole lot of it, but enough, I guess. And sort of sharp features, and his teeth was sort of, they wasn't straight, but they're real white. He had a quick grin. Seemed like he was grinning all the time. He sort of reminded me of old John Dillinger a little bit. I don't know why. Now, old Woodrow, I don't think he had much education, official schooling, but he's sharp. And he had the kind of voice that a man needs to get by with. Now, his was versatile, you might say. He had a voice for every occasion. But boy, he could holler out and it would carry, you know. It wouldn't startle you. It just bring you to attention. And he done some things that you won't believe. Now, he slept upstairs, but he roamed around everywhere. He walked sort of twisted-like. Seemed like when he put his right foot down, he'd sort of twist on the ball of his foot. Sort of twist along there. And it looked, it sort of, well, it wasn't a sister walk, but you paid attention to him. Especially when he was coming towards you. It sort of looked like he meant business. And especially if he barked out for that voice is. And he was a gambler. And a crook. Of course, after you got overseas, you know, there wasn't much cheating going on. But up there in Chanute field, there's every man for himself. And old Woodrow was a gambler. Now, he wasn't one of them guys that sat around playing cards all night. But you know, there was card games and crap games and everything going around all the time. You know, he just in and out of one, right into the other. And he liked to shoot dice. One day, I was downstairs there one evening. I guess it must have been on a Sunday. Laying on my bunk. Here comes James running down there, and I think he gave me $200. Said, "Harris, you keep this." And said, "Don't make no difference. If I come back down here, don't make no difference what I say. Don't give me that money." Okay. Put it in my pocket. Well, I was going to town. Started getting ready. Here comes James. He had that grin on his face. He started to talk. You know, it's one of them guys that sort of get tickled, you know, sort of spit out his words out, you know, sort of, you know, he gets tickled at himself, it seemed like. And cut them eyes around that and grin. He said, "Now, Harris, I need $50. Dude, he told me to keep it." He gave me every argument in the world. And I went right on ready and left and went on to town. I turned back and looked. He's standing there in that barracks door just looking at me. He didn't know what to think about it. Now, James, he was the little guy. Anybody that seemed to be the underdog, you know, being picked on or anything like that, old James, he'd tell them just how it was, you know. And he'd protect fellas. And a lot of guys liked it and a lot of guys didn't. But they all had a lot of respect for him. Now, I don't think James could read very well or write either, because when he wrote, he printed. And he got me to write letters to his girlfriend back in Cabot. Love letters. In fact, he must not have known her very well. But I remember her name was Dora Mae Donahue. And he asked this girl to marry him. And I wrote the letter. And she come back with saying she would. Well, James, he went down there and he married that girl, and he was gone 3 days. And he got back. Now, he had told me, Harris, said, "I want you to do a few things for me." Said, I want you to sign me in over there in the school building every morning. There's a place there we all went in and signed our names. And went in the classroom. Well, I done that. Because you just couldn't refuse to do anything to James. Well, he was gone 3 days and he come back. And that instructor there calling the roll. James, where you been? James said, oh, I just went to the latrine. I wasn't gone very long. And no, I mean, where you been the last 3 days? He said, now, what do you mean last 3 days? He said, where you been? He said, I've been sitting right here. And, no, you wouldn't. Yes, it was. And, it went on and on like that, and, they went over going to have a little conversation, come back, and I don't know what James told him, but, he didn't say no more about it. He just bluffed them out of it, just sat lied to him and got by with it. Well, that's where it was. He told me he worked over there in the insane asylum in Little Rock a little while before he come in the Army, an attendant over there. And he's telling me about how some of them people would act. Said one room there had 3 old men in it. Said you'd go there in the morning, and there'd be a big pile of mess right out there in the middle of the floor. And these 3 men had be running around there, you know, and giggling and whispering and pointing at that. And he done it. He done it. No, he done it. And, they's all accusing it on everybody else, you know, and wanted them to, when he find out who done it, you know, well, old James, he just, you know, had a little fun with him for a while. Finally, he'd get him, he'd give him a spoon, and he'd tell one of them fellas, now, go over and dip up a little bit of it, you know, and that guy's spoon, well, he probably, you know, just throw it down. Half nothing, you know, he'd throw it down, too. Maybe half the other one that's done it, you know, he'd look at that spoon, you know, and look all around and try to make up his mind, and after a while, he'd throw a spoon down, too. But it wasn't hard to find out who done it. Boy, that James. You have a typical Sunday evening. Old James come marching in the barracks there. Always a couple of guys following him, you know. Oh, he blared out them orders now. Attention there. Come to attention, everybody. And the way it sounds things, you know, you just sort of done it. And now we're going to have a barracks inspection here. He'd go inspection of the barracks. And just like an officer. And he'd say, well, this is pretty good shape. We'll go over to another one. 2 or 3 guys go with him, you know. Old James pick up a clipboard someplace, give it to one of them guys, and he'd go to another barracks. I went with him one day. Walked in there, and of course they didn't know him. And called everybody to attention. And he'd go down the aisle there inspecting the barracks. And the guy at the foot locker. And it didn't make no difference that they didn't have no bars on, no stripes or nothing. He sounded so official and everything, there wasn't nobody going to call his hand on nothing. He just go down and inspect that barracks. We get outside, boy, he looked at me, grin, you know, and laugh. And when we'd have our physical examination, well, an officer, you know, and his age would come around, he'd sit down there on a little stool, and you just walk up in front of him, you know, and drop your pants, and he'd look at you, you know, and turn around and bend over, and you'd go on out. That's all it was to it. But James, one day he got out there, and when these guys went through the line, he was putting them back in. Come on, go back to the front door. He forgot something. You got to go back to it again, you know. So they were just a continuous circle there of guys going through there until that officer found out what was going on. James done gone then, and them GIs, they were taking in about it. They didn't know what was going on. Couldn't do nothing then. Too many of them anyhow. Now, we had a guy there, a barracks chief. This guy was named Townsend. He's a tall, slim boy. He's about, I guess he wasn't much over 19, 20. Eager beaver. And he was an acting PFC. Didn't even have a strike. But he was barracks chief. And he was somebody was always messing him up, getting his goat about something. He's always arguing about this and that. And, no, it ain't right. This, you got to do it like this. And didn't nobody pay much attention to it. He was just a mistreated young man, he thought. But boy, he had a lot of self-importance, you know, boy. He was a big shot. Now, a lot of time, you know, we'd have to go on KP. They'd get maybe a dozen of us together there. And old Townsend march us over there. And James ended up being punched. He never did pull no KP except when he wanted to. He was smart enough to finagle his way out of it. But he liked to have fun. Well, all he was doing, you know, just having a big time. By the time we got over to the mess hall over there, well, old James, some way or another, done got rid of Townsend, and he was in charge of us. Boy, he'd march us over there. 1, 2, 3, 4, just putting on a show all the time, you know. And he'd get over there in the mess hall. Well, he'd go in there, he'd just take over. He'd go up to some guy that looked like he might be in charge of some area there, you know, and give him a great big line. And pick out the easiest jobs over there. He'd spot us around whatever we wanted to do. Well, old James would go over and get us to doing that. He just could do anything. Well, he'd get us all settled there. And I remember once, said, "There's young, put the picture show," and he looked at his watch. There's a couple of theaters right across the street. Well, yeah, come on, let's go to the show. And we'd go to the picture show while the other guys pulling KP. Now, I remember one time, old Woodrow James, he never would buck a line, not any kind of a line. We was down at South Hall there one day, and he said, "Here, come show you something." And he got up, and he went outside, and where that chow line was coming in, there's 2 or 3 lines there, serving line. He said, "You just keep your eye on me." So James just bucked the line right on up there, and one guy had already got his tray and his silverware and his bread, you know, and water, maybe some coffee. And James walked up to him, and they had a few words, and that guy handed his tray to James and got out of the chow line. Walked on back somewhere, I lost it. And old James went on up to the line there, and here come a soldier walking down through there. And he grabbed him by the arm and gave him that tray. And the guy got in line there and went on through the line. James come back over and sat down. Said, "That's the way you do it." He says, "I'll bet you $10. He said, "You see that little fat guy yonder just about get through the line?" He says, "I'll bet you $10. I can go up there and get his tray." And he'd walk on back to the end of that line. I said, "No, no, I ain't going to bet you. I know you can." Well, I never did see James after we left there, but I heard about him. He was over in Sicily. And I'd always ask around about him. You know, I'd go into someplace. Went into Catania, Sicily there one day, and asked somebody about Woodrow W. James. Yeah, Master Sergeant James. And he told me where I could find him. And over there in their headquarters building, he said that he'd got an office over there right by the commanding officer. And Did you see his name on the door? Run over there and sure enough, landing officer so-and-so up there, and Master Sergeant Woodrow W. James on another door. But he wasn't there. But I found out what done. He was a flight chief. A Master Sergeant flight chief. But on his off hours, he was organizing officers' clubs and enlisted men's clubs around town.